It's obvious that you listen to this show to hear about and support other people's dreams. But what about yours? What is your dream project? I'm here to help you break through whatever is in the way of your dreams and get you to the finish line. Go to dreamingbigcoaching.com today and take the first step. Literally, it's a button you can click to sign up for a free consultation with me. Let's find out if I can help you reach your goal. Click on Take the First Step. It's that simple to start the rest of your life. Get coached by Rob Southgate at dreamingbigcoaching.com. Welcome back to Go Fund This. We have a unique show today. This is kind of a part two, a redo, I don't know what to call it, but we have a guest that actually, I haven't been producing as many shows lately, and one of my last guests was Amin Amat. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yep, you do.
All right. I had Amin Amat on last time, and it was nothing but love for me. We talked all about his project, which is The Road to, wasn't just called The Road to, the original version?
Yep.
Okay. Well, he's back, and here's the deal. We're gonna get into it, but it now has a new name and it is a little bit different. It is now called The Road to Oz. Could not be more clear what we're dealing with now, unless we're talking about that prison show. I don't know if that was what you were thinking. You're going to do a whole thing about characters from Oz in Oz. I mean, I think I'm feeding you a whole new idea. Okay, forget that. So anyway, we're back with a crowdfunding. I'm going to let you tell the story. Before we do that, I mean, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. I truly enjoy your project, and I truly enjoy talking to you. As you could tell by the half hour that we've talked before we've started recording. So, I mean, why don't you tell people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi. It's a real pleasure to meet everyone once again.
A real pleasure, yes.
So my name is Amin. I'm a published illustrator, comic book illustrator for books such as Buckaroo Banzai, Kolchak, and books at IDW like CodeWord, Geronimo, and Iron Sky. So I was here last to help promote and push the Kickstarter I had for The Road to, which initially was going to be a graphic novel of 4 chapters talking about the story of how saving Oz failed. Well, ironically, the Kickstarter itself did not fund per se. We were close, but we weren't that close. So came back again for the 2.0, thinking of where can we change things and make things a little bit more enticable. And so what I did was I took the 4 chapters that I originally had and broke that down into 4 issues. And we're talking about roughly 28, 32 pages of artwork here and there, which oddly enough, initially that's what I thought about doing. And then I just figured let's do the graphic novel so everybody can read it in one go. But here we are now.
We are.
Yeah. And so basically The Road to Oz, we talk, and yeah, because I've got many questions. This is volume 1. Volume 1, each volume consists of 4 different chapters. So we're seeing the first volume. We're going to talk about what happened between the first book, Wizard of Oz, and the second book, Land of Oz. This particular story, you want to call it an alternate timeline, that's fine. But it works perfectly in terms of what happened before and what's going to happen later. All your favorite characters that you're aware of in the books will appear at one point, not in the first volume, obviously, but definitely for the second and the third, I do have already all that outlined and laid out. So this story really, we start off with one of my favorite characters, which is Scarecrow, and kind of talking on how he is finding out about this plan to get rid of Dorothy, who's been labeled as the catalyst for the winged monkey's kind of bane of existence, if I may. And so his role then becomes and how he's trying to foil that plan, fix it, save Dorothy. But in the process, and I think some kind of took some M. Night Shyamalan liberties of just throwing in a few little twists here and there. Funny enough, when I was writing all this stuff, I had read Wicked, I'd read the first book, I've seen the movie like a lot of people, and I read the second book. And then I just kind of forgot about all that. And I just started writing and writing and writing, at least the outline where everything was going to go. When I came back to revisit those things, I realized how all this stuff was still honoring the original material, but it gives it a new spin. So we're not doing anything too way out there, just kind of like, this ain't Oz. No, it is Oz. There's certain things that are very unique to my style, but I'm still honoring, obviously, L. Frank Baum's original work, as well as the movie and a few other things. So it's like a mix mash.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. Kind of recreating here and there this world to make it work. And then seeing it work, it's probably the best fun I've had in a long time with the project.
I love projects like this when they're done right. And yours, anyone listening, I'm already a fan. I've talked about it. I love this. I think this is really cool. And I'm a big fan of, you said alternate timeline, but it kind of is. I like when you explore a piece of the puzzle that's been missing, and that seems to be a nice trend right now. We're seeing a lot of like books that kind of, maybe it's not the sequel, maybe it's not technically a prequel, maybe it's between two chapters, or maybe it's, and when you look at Wizard of Oz, when you look at all these books, it almost is, because they are short, you could almost make an argument that each one is a elevated chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going between chapter 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take the movies and you shove this in the middle, what I love, when you mentioned the movie Return to Oz, and I look at what you're doing, Return to Oz is pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I'd make an argument that both movies are horror movies.
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I love it. It was so sweet." And it's like, no, you realize they're putting a child in danger, and there are terrifying things going on, and people getting set on fire, and they're trying to kill. It's like, this is a horror movie. They literally rip Scarecrow apart. I don't care if he's straw; he's a living thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that in what I see in what you're doing here. I don't see exactly Return to Oz. I don't see kind of the sweetness of the original, but I do see both, and I feel like this is a world I want to see a lot more of.
Yeah. It's funny because before I read Wicked and anything like that, I think the first imagery I drew was of the Scarecrow in Kansas during the Dust Bowl. Don't know why that came up. It just popped in my head, and I just started scribbling away and doing sketches. And then the character, which will Dot, who's the redhead, she came into play, and I'm like, could never really figure out a story for them. But I loved that there was something about that imagery of those two in Kansas during that time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how can this work and not work? And I think that became the biggest struggle of this particular project of mine, was coming up with the story. Because I did do promos back in 2006, 2008 to do it. And I was really testing myself to limits that I shouldn't have, because I was making promotions, talking about it. It's going to come out, this mini series, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know how I was going to start, let alone end.
Right.
And that was that point that I killed it. I was like, no. I'm not going to do career suicide on this project. Let me just cut it back. Let me take some time to really kind of have, I guess, life experiences to kind of fill in the gaps. And that's exactly what happened. It took 20 years though. But a lot of stuff that's happened in my life, I did pour it back into the work. And I think that is what kind of gave it the kickstart for where it is. There's just themes of loneliness, friendship, new friendship, exploration of new worlds. I think in chapter 3, we start talking about issues of resentment and anger towards certain figures, and then kind of it all comes together. So I've been really kind of playing with a lot of the emotional themes here and there to kind of help with each of the characters as they progress. And for those that have seen some of the preview artwork over the past 3 years where I've been doing it, they have seen glimpses of the winged monkeys and here and there. So they're
they're on the Kickstarter. They look awesome, man.
Yeah, they're a little bit more. They're a little bit more realistic, because I kind of want that seems to be my style is realistic but not full realistic. So I figured I'm just gonna play with that and kind of did a whole development of how the whole system. Like if you go to the Kickstarter page and you're going to see that big C-page spread of Emerald City, the one things you're going to notice is obviously the hot air balloons, which
Yep.
are actually those are transport devices for trade. And if you look at the winged monkeys, you will see that they have armbands, and that is something I even thought about of how they've been broken down into like functions as well. And of course, then there's the banner of that represents Emerald City.
Yeah.
So creating the world was a lot of fun, but I just thought about like what happened, what are they doing, how does this, since Emerald City is like New York City, how does that work out with all the other smaller cities? They obviously would be the center of trade and commerce, and everybody would want to go there and check it out and live there, because it's like, if you want to be somebody, you got to go to Emerald City. And those are things I will explore in volume 2 a little bit more. You get glimpses of it in this one, but this one concentrates mostly in Kansas, at least from chapter 2 on. But the first one, you do get a glimpse of it, and there's enough hints in there that if you look closely, you'll see that I've left enough hints for things that happen in the future. And I know that I'd shown. Well, let me go back. So all 4 chapters.
Okay.
So all 4 chapters are fully penciled. They're all the artwork. The hardest part is done, and that I've shown friends of mine photocopies of that, and they got this story immediately, and then they kind of went back and like, wait a minute, you planted what's going to happen over there in this first issue. And I was like, yeah, it's all there. You have to look for it. And sometimes you'll see and not notice, and then when you come and revisit back, you'll notice it. And that is probably I picked that up from like watching, obviously, like many people, Russell Davies kind of run on Doctor Who, where especially with like Donna Noble, if you see all that from the first go, you're like, okay, great. But then when you come back and you revisit some of those episodes, especially for the one like Donna Noble, which is one of my favorite characters, like it hits harder because you know what's going to happen to her.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I did a lot of that. I enjoyed it a lot, but it's really just honoring the work that was there, giving it a more unique spin, and then exploring some other things. And like I mentioned before, there's not big gutty guts blowing out everywhere, this and that, just punches and whatnot, because the story, at least this story, didn't really need violence per se. A punch here and here in an action sequence is obligated because I had to.
It's in the movie too.
Yeah, but I really dug deeply into, and you'll see this more in chapter 2, like the environments and how it looks, and I put a lot of work into how the Kansas and Dust Bowl is going to look, and you get glimpses of that. Like even with the promo image alone, you kind of see, here's Dot and Scarecrow, and then you kind of have like this not green behind them. It's
right.
Definitely there's something off. But if you're familiar with the Dust Bowl, that's exactly where this is happening. And yeah, it's been a really cool project to work on, and one that for each chapter I know how it starts and ends, but then for each volume I do as well. And I already know how this whole thing is going to end, and it ties in so nicely. So I'm so excited to like see that this project is getting funded faster. And I just can't wait to finally get that final issue out for people to be just blown. And then they're going to want to go back and start reading it from the beginning. And then they're going to see that I laid out everything from the very beginning.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay. I think we've set up what this project is. I think we've given different information than last time.
Yeah.
And once again, I can't stress enough how much I think this is a cool project. Let's talk about the business side of it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You got 25 days to go as of right now, which means by the time you hear this, it's probably 24 days to go. We're at 2,497 of a goal of 3,500. So the odds of you hitting it are looking really good. And in fact, I think you're going to kind of blow this out of the water, and it's going to help fuel the next volume.
Yes, that's what
exactly where we want to be.
Fingers crossed and knocking on virtual wood.
Yeah. So if you liked it the last time and you pledged, or maybe you didn't get to pledge, get back in on it. Get in on it this time.
Yeah, please. And one thing I'm working on stretch goals. I'm just trying to figure out what's the most enticing thing to put out there, especially where we're at. But off the get-go, that image that you see of Dot and Scarecrow and whatnot, that is going to be a a thank you to backers promo poster that I will give, that every backer will get.
Sure.
Regardless of the tier. It's just like a thank you for cooperating. And you get one signed with a sketch on it because I like to draw. And there are probably going to be some more stuff out there. Randomly, thinking about bookmarks, because let's face it, at one point you're going to want to put a bookmark in there, because trust me,
right.
There's
You don't
stuff
just
that
use a
like,
receipt from the gas station like I do.
There's I don't know, probably a lot more artwork, because that's one thing I know a lot of people like to see from me. And for this particular world, there's a lot more stuff that I can tell you with these one sketches or drawings that you can later come back and actually use that as sort of like a context against the books.
Oh,
and
that's
being
cool.
able to see like, I've been doing that for I think the last year or so. So people who have asked me for sketches, they'll get a sketch and then they'll notice something in the background going on there, and I'm kind of like,
yeah, you're planting the seeds.
Yeah, you're a backer, so you will see it's coming. So it's, trust me, if you're asking for sketches from me, and or I decide to give free sketches to everybody at one point, the sketches are not just one off. They're all tied together to the storyline.
Amazing.
I think it more. It's like you're going to see bits and pieces of deleted scenes, if anything, if that's the best kind of context to give to those things.
So let's go through a couple of tiers.
Sure.
The starting tier, $6, get a digital copy. That's
Mhm.
the one. Hey, if you want to support, but you're like, I'm on a budget. That's a way to support. It actually helps a lot. And you get the PDF, so you get to read it. And then the next tier is at 15, where you get a physical copy and the PDF. So those are kind of your starting, hey, I really want to read the book. I want to support, but I can't jump into those higher levels. From that point on, what would you say is the one that you really want to emphasize? Like, hey, obviously it's going to be the top one, $700. Everybody do that. But in reality, what are the ones that you look at and you're like, yeah, I know that if I ran across this, I would totally be
To
in
tell
it.
you the truth, the one that's a popular one is the one with the two 8x10 sketches. Because you're lucky in a lot of my research with other Kickstarters, they'll give like maybe one sketch, and I just like, what, for those that have seen me at like Puerto Rico Comic Con, they know how fast I can sketch and very detailed. So yeah, I'll give you two 8x10 sketches alongside the book and the poster and everything else and whatever stuff you want. And again, these sketches are going to have a context.
Right. They're important to the
storyline.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not just getting like, oh, here's just a sketch of Dot and Scarecrow. No. Take some time, take a look at it, and you're going to spot something in there, and you're going to be like, and
right.
make a mental note, and then eventually, as the books come out, you're going to see where that makes sense. I've tested that with other stuff, and especially with these, and that makes the drawings that much more, in the sketches, much more unique to the project, because you're like, you're getting a snapshot of time within this storyline. So it'll make sense, as the issues come out, and you'll be able to say, and you're also going to know that I've been thinking about this way ahead of time, so you'll know exactly where this falls.
Right, it's plotted out. So that one is $200, two 8x10 sketches, and you have a limited quantity of 25. There are 23 left right now. I see why that's most popular, because I'm staring at it and I keep thinking, well, this is a really cool one. You also have, if you want an original page, which I think this is the one I wanted to bring up. It's at $400, but you get one of the original pages. I think that is awesome. As somebody who used to collect animation cells and things like that, to me, the sketch that was not the Carousel, the one that was like, this is a production sketch, that artist's hand touched this, that was the money to me every time. So when I see this $400, I'm like, that's a deal, and you're really supporting here. So okay, and then there are other sketches. You got to go through this. You got to look at it. Once again, look up The Road to Oz Chapter 1. It's important you say that. That's the current Kickstarter that's going, and I will put the links in the show notes. I'm going to ask you a question that I already know the answer to, but we're going to ask it. Do you have any stretch goals lined out? Because you're going to need them.
I
If you
think
don't,
definitely.
it's fair to say no, not yet.
Now talking with you, definitely bookmarks. I definitely want to put up there. Um, I have gotten some requests for some sort of like T-shirt or hats or something like, or even something with the logo. So I am contemplating that as a stretch goal, if not as an add-on later on, and because for those who know, since Kickstarter is now doing late backer functionality,
Yeah.
once the campaign funds, I am thinking even about that. So that way, if later on you decide, I love all this stuff. Is there anything else I can get before he gets chapter 2 out? I am thinking about stuff to put up there as well. So that way, in between, obviously, chapter 1 and chapter 2, there's still stuff that you can grab, to help support and get the word out as well. So probably where are we? April 17th? Yeah, probably within 10 or 12 days from now, I should have some stuff up on the page in an
Yeah.
update. So keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out. Plus, there are going to be other interviews in that. So if you like this whole project, I'm sure you're probably going to put interviews in the comments. There's going to be ways people can get a little bit different take on this, because this show is really strictly about the project. I know that if there's time, I'd love to interview you for Alley Chats, where we can talk more about art and you and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get that happening before this Kickstarter is done, and you'll have more into the mind of Amin and his world of Oz. But all I'm going to talk to you about is Buckaroo Banzai, because come on.
Oh yeah.
I'm obsessed.
That still one of my favorite projects, and I still get asked to this day if there's going to be a second book. That ends up being that's in the hands of Moonstone, and then of course WD Richter and Mac Roach if they want to do that. I still reach out to them once in a while and ask, like, I keep getting asked.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to do the second book. And I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, because there's things enough strange things that happened in this world. So I think as long as I'm nicely persistent,
you'll still have your hat in the ring.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, who knows if maybe the success of The Road to Oz will help get that second book out, which is fine by me, because that was such a fun project to do, and I do catch myself drawing young Buckaroo every once in a while, just kind of like really wanting to revisit that world and to continue on, because there was so much stuff in that script, and then some from what from what WD Richter was telling me. We couldn't do this because of the budget. We couldn't do this in the budget. I'm like, oh, we can do this in the comic book now. Oh, we can't do it in this story. And I'm like, but we can. So let's.
Actually, they put out a sequel book a couple years ago, and I don't know how they could ever make that into a movie, but a comic.
Yep. Yeah. Even for this one, like the whole opening sequence of Buckaroo Banzai Origins, that was a whole sequence that they wanted to do for the movie. The whole intro. So literally, the comic book was a more elongated version of what they wanted to do, and they only got to show like a small hint of it. But their intention was to show they wanted to show the young Buckaroo and his interest in science and all that, and kind of really go explore just a little bit more to create more character development. But be that as it may, that's not what happened. But the movie is still, it's a cult following, and it's wacky and it's fun, and it's fun. It's hot. It's hard to explain to other people what it's about, but as soon as they watch it, they're hooked. So it's just one of those movies. So
yeah, it is.
I'll for all the Buckaroo Banzai fans out there, yes, I will.
You're still staying in there.
Yep.
All right. More importantly, right now in our reality, in this dimension, you can back The Road to Oz. It's on Kickstarter. He's got 25 days left. We're going to say that. It's going to be different when you listen. But tell your friends, pass this around. Now that it says The Road to Oz, those people that got confused, even though it has all the imagery, they're going to understand it. If you have an Oz fan out there, I mean, this stuff, there's so much to explore there, and people that are into it love all that exploration. Well, I got to tell you, this is one of my favorites that I've seen. So share it, support it, back Amin, and who knows, maybe it'll lead us to an Oz Banzai crossover at some point.
You never know.
Wouldn't that be interesting? All right, Amin, why don't you give where people can find you, your social media, and then we'll put all this in the show notes as well.
Yeah. If you're on Facebook, you can find me at Amin Amat Art. On Instagram, you can find me at AAMAT. Of course, you can also find my website at aminamatart.com. And Twitter, I think it's Amin Amat. So yeah, or just Google my name and I'll pop up.
Yeah, it pops up.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, thank you so much for being on. I truly enjoyed talking
pleasure.
to you, and I'll have you back on for Chapter 2, and let's schedule for an Alley Chats, and we'll just do all sorts of talking. So thanks a lot, man. Have a great day, and good luck.
Thank you, man. You too.